Yeah, I was sound asleep. We got up around 6:30 to go to school, so I was obviously in dreamland. And all of a sudden, and you'll probably hear this over and over as you talk to more people, but this big shaker hit, and it was just a sudden jolt, is what I remember. And all of a sudden, something flashed through my mind. It was like, I don't know if you remember, we're the same age. The last Friday of every month, 10 o'clock in the morning, the air raid sirens went on. And I was thinking, okay, this is it. We're being bombed. The block wall right next to on the side my bed fell in on the house because they didn't have any rebar like they do now. The building requirements were not as stringent. So that fell in, and I thought, oh my gosh, I heard this big boom, and I thought, must be being bombed by the Russians. So the bed was on rollers, and I started ping-ponging off every wall, just like I was a billiard ball on a pool table. I had two pole lamps, one on each side of the bed with chains. So three lights on each one. So six lights altogether suspended right over my bed. They all banged together. They were ceramic glass. They broke all over the place. Luckily, I pulled the covers and the sheet and everything over my head, walked out without a scratch from my room, and we kind of huddled up in the hallway. But I looked back, and I could see all my baseball trophies all over the floor, broken, and I had to step on them on the way out because it was dark. I couldn't see anything. Not a scratch on my feet, not a scratch on my head, nothing. And all my, the rest of my family was fine too. So in that way, we were very blessed.
Yeah, you had a lot of trophies from it,
right? Well, yeah.
What happened immediately after that? I mean, did you guys scramble for, obviously everything is a mess in the house, did you end up sleeping outside for days?
We huddled up in the hallway, and then as a family, we moved outside, and my mom says, Glenn, and my dad's name, you're not going to work, and the kids aren't going to school. And I thought, that's an understatement. And yes, our next door neighbors were the Kumagai, Steve Kumagai and Marilyn Kumagai, Alice Kumagai. And we slept in a tent that night out on, I believe it was his front lawn, and probably spent a couple of nights in a tent. Yeah, the aftershocks came, and there was just no way I was going back in the house, really, other than to clean up, that kind of thing. But yeah, I can remember doing that, thinking nothing of it. At some point, it was kind of fun, really. 17 years old, I was a senior in high school, so I was like, oh, okay, no school. This is good, And I'm sure I had a different perspective on it than my parents, of course, who owned the house. But I just remember part of it being sort of an adventure. My mother was affected, I think, more by the aftershocks than the actual earthquake. And they seemed to come at first like every few minutes, maybe every 15, 20 minutes. Big ones, almost as big or as bad as the original earthquake. And she could only take that for about a day or so. So it was either the next day or the day after, we got her on a plane at LAX, and she flew back to the Midwest to stay with her sister because she was so shaken up. And that's the first time I've ever seen my mom, emotionally upset like that, to the point where she just couldn't function. To us, it was just something that, we lived with. We were, like I said, I was 17 years old, so we were a little more adaptable to that. My dad kind of took over and, cooked the meals on the barbecue because obviously there was no gas. Water was very limited and kind of polluted, and no electricity, etc. So we had a lot of outdoor cooking for a few weeks. And I remember our neighbors, the Logans, Ron Logan, Debbie Logan, etc. They had a freezer just stocked full of meat, and of course, when the electricity went off, they just went around the neighborhood handing everybody steaks and this and that. So I thought, hey, this is good. I'm eating good. Life was good, at that point. But
did your mom eventually recover from that?
she did. She was gone maybe 3 weeks, something like that. It took her quite a while. Yeah, she flew back and she did recover, but it was hard for her. It was hard for all of us, really. Even like I mentioned, we didn't have any physical injuries. The injuries we had, I think, were more mental, emotional, where, to this day, I still look at my cars and I think I've got to get gas. Never fall below half tank, because a lot of people don't realize that have never been through any kind of natural disaster. When the electricity goes, you might have all this gas at the gas station, but it's down below ground and it has to be pumped up with electricity. So the gas you have in your vehicles is what's in your tank. So I do that, religiously even today. I have all kinds of flashlights by my bed all around the house, lantern type things, because I learned in the Northridge earthquake, which I was also pretty close to, that it's nice to have a flashlight, but what do you do with it? You can't have it in your hand all the time. So we all have all of these little lanterns stashed around the house. It was just it was one of those things, Bob, that it was good and it was bad. It was bad because a lot of people got injured. Many people got hurt, killed, as you know. I think we had a mutual friend, David Mickelson. If you remember, his mother was working in the hospital, All of You Hospital. She died. She was a nurse and passed away. And that shook their family and all of us that knew her pretty well. I wouldn't call it, for me, it wasn't PTSD as much as it was a wake-up call. You know how it is when you're a teenager, 17, 18 years old, you're a senior in high school, you're never going to die, nothing's ever going to happen to you. And all of a sudden this strikes. And so I remember, from that young age, I learned to prepare. So I don't know if that you would call that a negative or a positive. It's kind of a positive spin in a way, because I became a teacher, as you know, and a coach. I taught a lot of health classes and that. So when it came to disaster preparedness, I was speaking from the heart. So I'm sure all of the kids in my classes got a huge dose of what it was like to go through an earthquake. But to this day, I have little disagreements with my wife. She was in Germany at the time because her first husband was in the military. She didn't go through the Silmar quake, but she's an artist, and she looks at a room and she says, okay, this goes here, this goes there. And she takes care of all the colors and everything. And I look up and I say, that's not going above our bed.
Yeah.
No pictures, nothing heavy, stuff like that. So we go back and forth sometimes. That, like I said, the lights, the problem during the earthquake that really affected a lot of people was, as you remember, back in those days, a lot of people smoked and they had ready access to matches and lighters, that kind of thing. And so 6:02 in the morning, or whatever time it was, it's still fairly dark. The sun's not up yet. First thing they did was light a match or light a lighter. And what's under the ground but all the gas pipes? The gas is coming up through the house, and boom, there was a lot of fires. And then you go to put it out, there's no water. There's no water in the hose. So yeah, a lot of people had problems with that. I remember their houses were partially or fully burnt down. So that, kind of made me think, and all the things that go with the lack of electricity, no lights, no television, that kind of thing. But you know what, at that time, for me anyway, if I was watching TV, it was something to do with sports. Yeah. So, I didn't miss it. I didn't miss it too much. I do remember, I played basketball as well as baseball at Silmar, and basketball season had just ended, I think the week before. And we didn't make the playoffs, so I think all of our uniforms were turned in. But we only had about maybe a few days of baseball practice before the February 9th earthquake. So, trying to do without any sports at all was kind of a shocker to me. And when I don't remember how we learned about it, but our coach was wanting to have baseball practice. It was just word of mouth, I think, just got passed around. And, oh, practice tomorrow at 2:00.
Fred Scott at that time. Right?
Fred Scott. And I just remember going to baseball practice, and first thing he says, are you okay? Yeah, you're okay. Family's okay? Yeah, everybody's fine. All right, let's go. Let's get to work. And so it was, there wasn't a whole lot of lead time before the league was starting. So Sylmar being known for baseball, that was important. That was important to everybody in the community, I think, was that we have a good baseball team. And so that's what we did. We went right to work, and we wound up winning our league and getting into the playoffs and that kind of thing. It didn't affect us at all as far as our performance, but I just feel sorry for the kids that had to use the facilities like the gym, totally demolished at Sylmar, those kinds of things.
Do you remember a police presence at all?
I remember at the time having I had a motorcycle, so I would go ride my motorcycle to and from school, to and from my friend's house, and that kind of thing. And trying to get back sometimes to my house, I was always they screened everybody,
right? And
you had to show your identification and that you lived within this area, and then they'd let us through. But as far as anything negative from the police, no, it was. I felt like they were kind of on our side. They were kind of keeping the people that didn't belong there, the potential looters, that kind of thing, the criminals out. So that was my experience.
Any instances, any neighbors or anything that crime happened to them or anything like that?
In our neighborhood, we were pretty lucky because I don't remember hearing anything negative like that as far as people being robbed or burglarized or looted or anything like that happening. I do remember this though. There was a real sense of community. We all, neighbors that we didn't really know, we knew after the earthquake. We all kind of, would greet each other and walk over. Are you okay? Is everybody okay? Do you need any help? Kind of thing. And we looked out for each other. We made sure everybody had food, water was safe. My dad went around turning off everybody's gas meter to avoid fires and that kind of thing, so that we didn't have any unfortunate incidents pop up. So I think everybody was helping everybody. There was this huge sense of coming together.
Yeah, that's one of the central themes we're finding out. It's one of the things we're hearing. I'm trying to remember, what did your dad do for a living?
My dad worked for Weber Aircraft. He was in the aerospace industry, Cold War type thing. He made some of the first ejection seats. He worked on the Mercury, the Gemini, the Apollo programs. Worked with the military. Was at a testing facility a lot up in China Lake. I think our coach wanted to win, obviously, and we were expected to win. Being a Sylmar baseball player, it was just kind of ingrained in you coming up. But at the same time, I think he also realized that one of the best things you can do for kids is, like you mentioned, to give them structure, to give them something to do that's positive, to get your mind off of it, even if it's for an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is. Give you something positive to focus on, so that it just makes it a little bit easier on your life, and you can deal with reality when practice is over, that kind of thing. But luckily, like I said, we were in baseball season. It wasn't basketball, because basketball, the gym was totally demolished, but the baseball field was good. My experience, my memory of that is that my parents and I went to do the grocery shopping down in Mission Hills. We went to the Hughes Market on Sepulveda in San Jose. And so we kind of avoided the Sylmar area altogether as far as groceries. I just remember having, like the usual shortages, water. there was bottled water, only it was glass bottles, like the Sparklets or the Arrowhead 5-gallon bottles, that kind of thing. And there were shortages of some things, but all in all, I think that as far as grocery supplies, that kind of thing, it wasn't too bad. It was just a matter of how far you wanted to drive. What happened in my case was, like I mentioned, I had a motorcycle, and so I was able to get it up and running, even though it fell over and it was kind of dented and messed up. It still fired up first time. So after a few hours of making sure that everything was okay at the house, I jumped on my motorcycle and I wanted to head up to my friend Judd Inglis's house to check on him and his family. And he lived up on Kismet, right off of Sayre Street. So we did visit for a while, but I remember seeing houses burning, smoldering on the way up there and on the way back. And it was funny to me, not funny, laughing funny. It was odd that one house looked like it was untouched, and then the next house looked like it was demolished, either from fire or it fell down or whatever. Almost everybody's fireplace was damaged or just completely down. I mean, that was a given. Block walls were almost all down. Chain link fences survived. Wooden fences seemed to survive, but anything that was made out of concrete or that kind of material was brick, totally down, and it was just haphazard. There was seemed to be no pattern to it really. One house would seem to survive, the next one horrible, smoke at random, all the way up there and back. That's what I remember. No street lights, of course.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't the smartest thing to be out driving around, especially on a motorcycle. No street lights, no red lights, just on the honor system kind of thing. And the other thing was you didn't know for sure where it was safe to drive,
Right.
Because the only radio we really had was in the car. We turned the car on and listened to the car radio, AM radio, and hear on the news about how the Newhall Pass had fallen down and bridges collapsed and that kind of thing, and it just kind of made us wonder, well, where exactly is it safe to drive around, or do I want to do this at all? And the force of Mother Nature is nothing to take for granted. Natural disasters are going to happen. We're probably going to have more earthquakes, et cetera, but it's just a matter of, how are you going to prepare for it? That's kind of how you have to look at it to keep yourself sane, is you know that you can't stop it. All you can do is prepare for it. I think that we have a lot in common. People that you meet someone somewhere and they say, I was from Sylmar. Oh, really? Do you remember the earthquake? We all have that in common. It was a way of, it's a way of communicating with people that you didn't know, various ages or whatever. And everybody has a story. Luckily, my story was not a disastrous one where my immediate family got killed or got hurt or anything, but it's something I'll sure not forget. And, I just would hope that people would turn this around and look at it as a learning experience more than anything else.